So I don't know about you guys, but I have a particular, it's a love-hate relationship when it comes to vehicle maintenance. It's a very interesting subject matter. I really like working on vehicles, and it's a lot of fun to learn, you know, how your vehicle works. Then there's also the great satisfaction you get from making your own repairs. You know, when something's not running right and you fix it and all of a sudden it's running properly, it feels really, really good. But the flip side of that is that most of the time when you're doing these repairs on your own vehicle, it's because your vehicle isn't running right. And there's that certain sense of pressure and just... I'm reminded of a really cool quote that I saw recently. I saw this in a bicycle mechanic shop, and it said that every 20-minute job is one broken bolt away from being a 3-day ordeal. That seems to be my experience when I'm working on stuff. You know, I'll look at all these videos on YouTube and I'll see guys like doing these repairs on a vehicle that's 10 years old, and they've still got like the undercarriage is still all painted. It's a total different ball of wax here in Canada. I mean, we've got so much snow, ice, and all that stuff. You know, they salt the roads, they sand the roads, gravel the roads. All that stuff just destroys your vehicles. It's amazing. When I watch these videos, it's like, okay, this is about a 2-hour job. I always double or triple it just because of the condition and all the rust and everything's deteriorated. Sometimes the bolts just break instead of coming loose. I find that every job I get into, it looks straightforward, looks, okay, we got this. But then you get into it and you find some serious issues, or you create your own serious issues by busting off bolts or something. Really hoping that doesn't happen today. We went up to Stettler, Alberta this weekend, and I know the front wheel bearing on my van wasn't good. I knew it was kind of going, and it got much worse over the weekend. Like, I'm talking, you know, before it used to make a little bit of a humming noise once you got up to highway speeds. It's like, Just to make sure that it is the wheel that I thought it was, I actually took it outside. I didn't want to do it in the garage, but I jacked up this side of the vehicle and I left the other side because it's not a limited slip differential or transaxle. I lifted this up so this wheel was off, put it into drive, and sure enough, that humming noise was there. I lifted the other side up and there's no noise, so clearly I know that it is this wheel bearing. And again, I didn't want to do this inside because what if your vehicle fell off the jack and it just all of a sudden took forward? I did not want to put the van through the garage. That would suck. So I did it outside, made sure I had lots of room around me so that if something went wrong and the vehicle landed, came off the jack and started driving forward, I'd have plenty enough time to stop. So I'm pretty sure that's the problem. We've isolated it, and this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like, look at that. That's gonna be fun. That's not gonna be fun at all. These hub units, this is an SKF. They didn't have any economy brand ones, so this is the premium. I think this sucker cost me, it was almost 300 bucks, 270, 280 Canadian or something like that. But it has the, I think that's the ABS sensor, everything all in it. Looks like it's all internal, so hopefully it should be straightforward. I'm glad it has this wheel studs on there because those are a pain sometimes, so that's really handy. And then hopefully we're going to be able to get it off the spline shaft easy enough. I'm really hoping this isn't a big deal, but you never know. But we have no choice. We're going to get into it.
Alright, so that is not coming off so well. I'm gonna take my little air hammer here. Just try hitting on this part. If I can get in here. Let's put some earplugs on.
That air hammer saved the day. That is a tool that I use this thing more than I ever dreamed I would. I bought this when I was building oil field equipment, big frac units, big horsepowers. But for working on vehicles, for stuff like this, really I don't know how long I would have to beat on this thing with a hammer and a drift or something. This makes such easy work of it. Now, full disclosure here, I am absolutely not a mechanic, an auto mechanic. I'm a millwright by trade, I've got my journeyman certificate. But you know, when it comes to vehicles, I pretty much just know enough to be dangerous. You know, one of the guys I used to work with, he'd always say, oh, if a mechanic can do it, I can do it. And certainly do not want to belittle mechanics in any way, shape, or form. Some mechanics are absolutely amazing. But it's kind of true, a lot of people get really, really nervous about doing their own vehicle repairs. If it's anything that you're really concerned about safety, you know, you might want to have it looked after, double checked or something, but for most of this stuff, I'm convinced it's not that difficult for most people to take. Most people that are mechanically inclined, they can usually handle this stuff.
believe I've just got 4 bolts here to take off, and then I probably have to disconnect this under the hood somewhere, so I better check that out before I get too carried away. All right, so now's a good time for a quick tip. A lot of times when you're tightening something up, you know, your natural reaction is you just grab it as hard as you can. You got a closed palm on there, closed fist around your wrench. But when that sucker lets go, if it slips, that's often when you get the busted knuckles. So one habit that I've trained myself to do, and I'm actually really good at it now, I don't even think about it, is that if I'm loosening off a fastener and I'm really putting a lot of torque on it, what I'll do, just say for example like this, I open up my hand and push on it. That way when it lets go, I'm not busting my knuckles. I mean, you can still hit this part of your palm, but usually that's a lot less painful than if I were to have a closed fist. It were like going bang, I'm cranking my knuckles on stuff. So that's a little way that I've learned to work that's really made a big difference. Save the old knuckles. All right, so before I get too carried away, this is our cable for our ABS sensor. We've pulled it out of these little places with these grommets. And if we look under the frame right there, this is it right here. And it's got these little things that kind of lock this end of it in, and there's this little red tab you got to pull on right there. Just got to slide that backwards. Well, I'm gonna have to put the camera down and monkey with that. All right, so we've got our cable disconnected here. Now I'm gonna try and just take the air hammer onto this. And there it is. Those are terrible. Terrible. No wonder it was making noise. Clean up these surfaces a little bit. All right, now it looks like right here we have a little bit of a deformation there. I guess we were not being careful enough when we were hammering this thing. What I'll do is I'll just grab my file, run it along here, just take that down, should be okay, and then we'll just finish cleaning this sucker up. Clean these splines all up, and we should be ready to get this thing put back together. All right, so I've got it all cleaned up in here. Put this little ring back on. And I'm actually gonna put a little bit of blue moly on here, which is an anti-seize compound. I'm not gonna do a lot, just a bit. Whoever takes this apart in the future, hopefully it'll be me. But whoever it is, they'll thank me for doing this, that's for sure. Good stuff, but you just want to make sure you don't get this on your hands. A lot of people have some nasty reactions to it. I don't, but still definitely try to keep it off of my digits. So again, I just want a little bit in there. I don't need a lot. Make sure we have our little sensor cable sticking out this way, just like it came off. We're going to use these bolts just to gently and evenly pull this back into the, whatever the heck this spindle is, spindle arm, whatever you call it, I don't know. And again, we just want to keep it nice and even. So we pull this thing on square. You don't want it to bind up. It's going in crooked or anything like that. So just kind of looking at our gap here, making sure we keep the same gap all the way along. This on. Now once the tire's on the ground, I will torque this to spec, which I believe is 117 foot-pounds. Okay, that's about good for now. Now we'll route our ABS line. This would go like this. This is gonna come out like this, pa-ching, pa-chow. This one goes here, and then I just have to plug this one in. Perfecto. Oh, that was too good. That was too good. Okay, I guess the next step All right, next up, we'll put our dust shield on. And then we're ready to put our disc back on, put our brake calipers. One other quick tip here is, I saw this on another YouTube video, but when you're working on your vehicles, it's always a good safety just to put your tire underneath part of the engine in case the jack ever lets go. And I've got my jack, plus I keep the bottle jack there just as a backup. But if this ever let go, I'd hate for this to come down, crush you. So sometimes just a tire under there, I mean, it's kind of soft, hopefully it wouldn't damage anything underneath there, but it's a really great safety. And it's also handy, like I'm not putting any strain at all on my calipers. I'm not flexing these lines. I don't have to tie up my caliper. A lot of times I'll tie up my caliper to the strut here, but I don't have to do that. This is a really slick little tip. Obviously this would be a great spot if we needed to do the brakes, but these ones are looking all right, so always worth checking. Sometimes you get into this stuff, find out, oh, you do need to redo your brakes. Well, the best time to do that would be right now. Thankfully, we don't need to. And that's all we're gonna do. We'll do the rest by hand. So, only one thing left, that is to lower this thing down, torque the wheels, torque our axle nut, and we're gonna take it for a rip. Always a good feeling. We've got the vehicle safely on all four wheels. Bolt torque spec for the wheels, 102 foot-pounds. For that axle, from everything I can find out, it's 117. All right, so we got it all back together. That was really quite smooth. I'm really impressed. So, only thing left now, we'll take it out for a rip, see how she works. Park brake. What I should have done, and I wasn't really thinking, is I should have had a little video clip of the noise, because I guarantee the camera would have picked it up. Just a, it's gone. No sound. It's a nice, quiet, there's no mechanical noises other than what should be. Oh, see this feeling right here, the feeling when you fix your own stuff, that is what I love so much about vehicle repairs and maintenance. And this one went really smooth. I'm shocked at how good this went. This is beautiful. This drives like a brand new vehicle again. And I figured, you know what, while we're at it, I might as well change the oil. So I had to whip out to my parents, grab my ramps, and we'll get this thing lifted up. We'll do a quick oil change. Put our filter back. I hate these covers. You know, this is how they want you to disassociate from your vehicle. They shroud these things. This one isn't bad. Like I had a Volkswagen once, a newer Volkswagen turbo diesel, and my goodness, the whole thing was covered in plastic. Like my dad's got a nice Mercedes. That whole thing, you can't see anything, and they really want to disconnect you from your own vehicles. That's why, like this thing here, the transmission doesn't even have a dipstick in it. They don't want you to check that yourself, and I think it's a shame. It seems people are going away from a hands-on approach to what they own, to what they have. And manufacturers are really encouraging it, and I think it's really disappointing. You know, gone are the days when people cared about their engines, cared what their vehicles are doing, and I think it's a shame. It's not really picking up it's like got these clicks and these clanks, so really good to get this thing fixed. So I'm just kind of curious, what do you guys do? Do you guys do a lot of your own vehicle maintenance? I know it's getting harder and harder to do with the more modern vehicles. This is a 2014, it's not all that modern, but still there's stuff that they don't want you touching it. The manufacturers, they want you hands off, man. They just want your money. They want to be able to plug it into their computers and do everything for you. And I think it is such a shame. You know, I know young people that are thinking about, oh, what if I want to get into doing my own vehicle maintenance? And I would encourage them, say, by all means, look into it, right? I mean, on YouTube here, there's such great information. There's so many mechanics, and chances are if you own a vehicle, you can find a lot of the repair videos for different components, you know, for your particular model. And I find it so helpful. You can learn so much. Even things like these Haynes manuals, they've got a lot of good information, and Chilton makes some. And I know a lot of public libraries actually have a lot of automobile manuals that you can refer to. A lot of this stuff is just some information, and then once you've got some basic mechanical knowledge,
It's not that difficult. So we paid $280 for the wheel bearing and then $30 for the oil. That oil change would have been $150 where I live, and that would say it's probably at least $1,000 to get that wheel bearing replaced. And so you think about that, we probably saved about, you know, $700–800 today, and it took me 4 hours. Now you think what that is per hour, what I'm paying myself, or how many tools can you buy for that 700 bucks? Then you have them for the next time, and now you're starting to really save a lot of money. And so I would encourage you, if you're not doing your own vehicle maintenance, if you're kind of interested, if you've got an inkling to do it, give it a shot. You know, start with the basic stuff. Start with oil changes. A lot of people don't like doing oil changes, but that's where you can save a lot of money. And they're simple, they're so simple. And if you are doing your own things, and if you have kids, make sure you're showing them how to do this stuff. Obviously you want to be safe. You don't want them to be like, hey kids, go crawl underneath there while it's up on jacks. Definitely be safe, keep them safe, but show them how this stuff works. Show them how you change your oil. And then my boys are getting to the age where they're really interested in a lot of this other stuff and some of the more complicated things. Like when I took these bearings, I mean, they're doing school today, but I took these bearings and I had them feel the difference between the two. They knew what that sound was like. They heard the grrr in the vehicle, and so now they can actually feel what that component is like, and I think that's going to serve them really well in the future. And you know, these young kids in college and stuff, they can save a lot of money by doing their own vehicle maintenance. And then for me personally, I just enjoy vehicle ownership much more with a hands-on approach. I have a friend who has zero mechanical ability whatsoever, and I know anytime something's wrong in his vehicle, he's got to take it to a dealer, and he's like, he just feels like he's absolutely handcuffed, and it's like this anxiety he feels because he doesn't know what it is. Is this going to be a $5,000 repair or a $500 repair? And there's a certain sense where the more ignorant you are to this stuff, the more easy you can be taken advantage of. And I'm not saying that mechanics are shady, but it does happen. I mean, there's tons of reports and stuff, and I know people that have been taken through the ringer. I've seen what the mechanic tried charging them for and went back and checked, and they didn't even change the parts that they'd said they changed. And it does happen, but I just want to be clear, most mechanics are pretty solid guys. But there's the other thing is that if you don't know, you're entirely at their mercy, and you're relying on hopefully that guy's honest. One last thing, a lot of these different machines and mechanisms, it's amazing, you know, when you're building things for your shop, you know, different types of attachments or for your grinders or all kinds of weird stuff. I like building weird things to do things. That's a lot of things I just said. But a lot of this stuff, the ideas you can learn from your vehicles, and when you see the different mechanical devices and how they work, it's a lot of fun, and personally I just enjoy it. Again, not everybody's like that. Some people have no desire whatsoever. I know a lot of really great welders and metal fabricators who have the mechanical ability to do this, but they have no desire. They're like, forget it, I'll just take it in, throw my money at the mechanic, and he can do whatever he wants, fix it, and that's it. So totally personal preference thing. I personally really enjoy it. Anyways guys, I hope you got something from this video. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.